10 years, we attempt to do things of a political nature and community nature so that people know who people are in their community, what they do when they run for office, when they serve in any capacity that deals with public safety or our general well-being. I am Jeanie Corral. I am the current chairwoman of the committee. Dan Baldwin, who is over here, is our secretary of the committee. There are two other members of the committee, but we don't see them here yet. One is Joyce Condley, who is our group's treasurer. We would like to announce the following things. Congressman Calvert is not available tonight because he is on the job in Washington, D.C., but we will be able to play his video. And Brenda Denstedt from Western Municipal.
I'm here representing Congressman Calvert.
But she is representing Congressman Calvert.
What was your name? Brenda Denstedt.
Denstedt.
D.
Okay. Kerri Condley from Wildomar regrets that she will be late, but she's hopefully going to show up by the end of the program, at least so people can see her. And then I'm looking around before I call up the candidates that are here. Ruth Atkins from the Historical Society. I saw her sneaking in. Where are you, Ruth? She sneaked away again. Okay. She is one of our longtime members. She is very involved with the community over here. And I do know Ira, who is from the Democratic Central Committee, and I'm drawing a blank on your last name, Ira. Robinson, thank you. Okay. We would like to call up at this time Tim Sheridan, who is one of the candidates. He is a new resident of Tuscany Hills, Lake Elsinore. Marquez of Corona. And our certified write-in candidate and resident of Lake Elsinore Canyon Hills is Floyd Harvey. Floyd Harvey.
Floyd Harvey. Thank you.
Yes. What we did at our very last meeting was we went around and asked each of the people to take approximately 3 minutes to give a brief overview of their personal philosophies, why they're running, anything about their family life or their expertise. And then we do have a group of questions that were submitted to our secretary in regard to what the candidates are going to be faced with and how they would choose to answer these questions. So I think we will start with Congressman Calvert's video.
Sure.
I'm sorry we don't have a larger screen. But
if you go to LECC.us, you can watch this video, but we've got some speakers. So since the candidates will largely be bouncing off of Congressman Calvert, we wanted to give Congressman Calvert the courtesy, since he is performing his elected duties, to announce his platform. He did submit this video specifically to us in response to our invitation. So, Congressman Calvert.
Hi, I'm Congressman Ken Calvert, and I'm running for Congress because President Obama and Washington Democrats continue to lead our country down the wrong path. With your support...
To the environmentalist reports...
Are you going to let him do that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm so anxious to get to the questions. I wonder if you're willing to give a chance to let us know about them. Please excuse me. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Sheridan, and I'm running for Congress here in the 42nd District. I live here in Tuscany Hills. I recently moved here in the last month. I used to live in Menifee. Tell you a little bit about myself. My wife and I have lived in Southern California since we got married in 2004. I actually lived here a few years before she came. And we've been married for 10 years. As a matter of fact, the day after the primary is our 10-year anniversary. So whatever happens at the primary, it's going to be a good day for her. And especially a good day for her because I've been working so hard. She has been just terrific in this whole process. She's not here tonight. She's working. She worked for Southwest Airlines and she's flying somewhere. But nevertheless, she sends her best. I'm very grateful for all the folks that are here as well on my team. So thank you all for coming. Tell you a little bit more about myself. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and I went to Onondaga Community College. I'm a community college graduate. After I graduated from community college in 1986, I went to the State University College at Oswego, State University of New York College at Oswego, where I received my bachelor's degree in 1989. I then went to the University of Akron. There's a fly flying around. I went to the University of Akron School of Law. I earned my JD in 1992. And in 1996, I started working for the National Treasury employees. We represent federal employees, and that's what I've been doing since 1996. In 1998, I earned my legal master's degree in labor and employment law. And as I said, I work for National Treasury employees. My father was a Teamster, and when I was young, he would tell me, get involved with the union, and I did, and I'm very glad that I did. My mom worked for UPS. She worked in the school system. I came from a middle-class family. We lived in a small house, 1,300 square foot house. I have a sister, and I also have a brother who passed away in 1992. I'll touch on him in just a minute. My sister still lives in Syracuse, New York, with her husband, and my little niece. Her name is Callie, someone who I love very much. 1 minute more. Oh, 1 more minute, I'm sorry. I'll tell you very quickly about my brother. He passed away in 1992 of leukemia. He was 21 years old. It was very hard on the family. But the one thing that I took away from his passing was that we had health care because of the union. We were able to pay the bills that we needed to pay, to give him the very best possible care that we could. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and he passed away. Healthcare, I think, is a very important issue. I'm sure we'll talk about that tonight. And as I said, I'm very glad that I had it. And I want to make sure that everybody in the 42nd District and across the country has healthcare, and we'll talk more about that. Thank you very much.
Chris?
How's it going, everybody? My name is Chris Marquez, and I'm also a candidate in this race. A little bit about myself. I'm from Corona, California. I'm a student, and I'm also a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I served in the Marine Corps for approximately 8 years of active duty service. During that time, I was a scout sniper. I deployed to Iraq quite often. I joined in 2003 at the very start of the war. I deployed to Iraq 3 times, Afghanistan once. I also deployed to Okinawa, Japan, where we were there for approximately a year, and we conducted a lot of humanitarian or training operations in the Pacific area. And after my time in the service, the Marine Corps, I was hired by a contracting company, and I worked on a defense contract for the Department of State. I was located at Kabul, Afghanistan, at the American Embassy there, and mainly served as a consultant because I was a scout sniper. After that, and that was a very short period. I was only doing that for about 7 or 8 months tops. And after that, I came back home to California. I enrolled in school. I went to Santa Monica College originally, but due to the cost of living, I came back home. And now I'm currently going to school at Santiago Canyon College. That college is located in Orange, and the reasons why I go to that college is because the college I was trying to go to, which is in my own hometown, because of cuts, classes are almost impossible to obtain, and that's one of the issues I'm also working on. And I'm currently doing that. I'm pursuing my AA degree right now. I'm also on California's AA transfer program. I should have my AA degree after spring semester, but I am also transferring fall semester to American University. If I do come out of this primary, I've already talked to the counselors at the university, they will postpone my transfer for as long as possible. They said, don't worry about it, we will always be here for you, and I know that. And that's the reason why I'm pursuing my education, but I'm more capable of putting that down to serve my country, to continue to serve my country. Kind of like I did after high school instead of going to college, I wanted to help my country a little bit. And
1 minute.
thank you. So I'm running because a lot like you guys, I am tired of a lot of the policies I've been seeing from Congress, a lot of his partisanship. I'm not like an ideologue, but I do favor strongly fiscal conservative policies along with social libertarian policies. And if you really want to know who I am, those two things will identify me. On the laws I'll support, especially for taxes, because I do think we need tax. Personally, I think America is overtaxed. And on top of that, I support other issues like marriage equality. I do support changing our laws because right now we have the largest prison population on the planet, and a lot of that is because we have laws in place that target specific individuals or groups of people in our country. And we need to end that because it's not productive and it costs more money in the long run. Thank you very much for this time, and I'll hand this over to you.
Tim Sheridan. My name is Floyd, Harvey. I'll be very brief on this one. A little bit about myself, how I got into being right here. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. Went to school, graduated from Citrus College. Played basketball, ran track and field, and I was more of a science guy in school. The two subjects I hated most, history and political science. The one profession I did not care for was sales. My mother was always in sales. I didn't see much of her because she was very good at sales and she was always gone, so I hated sales, but everybody said, Floyd, you need to get into sales. Never. So after college, I got into sales, and I was good at it, and I met a young lady at, when I was in corporate America, asked her about her interests, and guess what they were? History and political science. So, not going good, so I actually had to fake like I was interested, and that's when I started getting involved with watching how politicians work. Now, I'm not sure if any of you in sales, but you know, off the back, we're kind of trained after a while to just watch people's body language to see how I'm going to sell you something or how you're trying to get me to buy something from you. And the more I watched politics, the more frustrated I got. So I bust out of the room and she was looking at me. She said, babe, what's wrong? And I said, they're lying. She says, who? I said, everybody. They're all just lying. I mean, the media is watching them lie. She says, I know. Which threw me by surprise. I said, well, don't you go into politics to do right by people? And she gave me this look of like disgust. She's like, no, you don't go into politics to do right by people. It's to corporate kickbacks and enhance your career in the public sector, in the private sector. So I said, but that's not right. And she said, well, that's just the way it is. And then she patted me on my back and said, don't worry, you'll get used to it. That's how it always is when you first start watching this. That was 2005. It's 2014. I'm still not used to it. I can't stand it. And it's because I look at so many people just hurting. And when I go around to talk to people, their standards are actually getting quite low. They don't care about the ideology. They're just saying, are you going to do right by me? And that's really what I want to do. I'm going to do right by people. So you want to learn more about me as this goes on in my closing. The one interesting fact that always blows people away, my sister and I both born on the first of a month. My wife, her and her brother are both born on the same day, 10 years apart. I have 3 boys. The last Mohicans is my baby girl, no more. All 3 of my sons are born on the 11th of a month. My wife went into labor with my daughter on the 11th, and she was born on the 12th of a month. So, if you're playing lottery, you can try those numbers out.
Thank you. Now we get into the questions. Responding to environmentalist reports that microbeads used as an exfoliant in many personal hygiene products are finding their ways into our lakes, our streams, our ocean, and recycled water systems, many of the state legislators are considering voluntary and mandatory removal of microbeads from commercial products. Do you believe a mandatory federal ban on microbeads is called for?
I'll go first?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what microbeads were this morning until I saw the question. I called up my political director, Kerri back there. He gave me a little bit of a rundown on it. And I can say that I would support the banning of microbeads. I don't think that anything that is going to get into the environment and make it more difficult for us to keep the environment clean is a good thing. And I look back at the CFCs from the 70s. For those of you who are old enough to remember the CFCs, and they said that it was destroying our ozone layer. And what we did was we got rid of CFCs. And when we got rid of them, we came up with something else that did, the same thing that CFCs did. So if we get rid of microbeads, someone will come along and do something that will create something that will do exactly what the microbeads do now. And if they're harmful to the environment, my view is we should get rid of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. Okay, so the same thing happened to me when I got this information. I was like, what are these things? So I got some information gathered on it, and what I can tell you from what I observed and read, I would not support a ban on microbeads. And the reason for that is we cannot resort to bans whenever we get these types of reports out, because it just adds to that hostile environment we have for small businesses. And I know some of you people are charity supporters, progressives, whatever, that's cool, but you need to think more about jobs, because how much jobs is this ban going to cost? The cost to corporations to change their ingredients and formulas. Some corporations won't even be able to make the transition, so we're talking about jobs moving into the economy, and right now we can't have that. Now, this is not like an epidemic that's going on right now, and we don't have any actual evidence that this is actually harming our environment to that scale. It is, I agree, it is bad to a certain extent, but does the cost outweigh the benefits? And we need to always put that in perspective. And as of now, this thing I have not heard of any cases where people have been getting harmed from microbeads, or I have not heard of any stories on the news where it's just to the point that our streams are polluted, that people cannot go in water, or we're not there yet. So until we get to that point, why not instead encourage businesses to invest money in technology, in alternative technology, and we give them a heads up. And in order to do that, we give them tax incentives, we give them credits. We're like, okay, if you invest a certain amount of money in trying to find another version to replace the plastic that holds together these microbeads with a safer biodegradable thing, that would be awesome. We can do it right. So thank you very much. And so that's what I think we should focus on, because whenever you start saying ban this, ban that, no one's going to create jobs. And right now, we need jobs right now, especially my generation. We are hurting the most on it.
Thank you.
I think I'm more along the lines with Chris, but for probably a different reason. We don't really need to. A lot of states are banning this. The business themselves are aware of this now, and they're starting to make the change. So if they've already seen what's going on and they're making the change themselves, there's no reason for us to go out and federally ban it. They're going to change itself now that more people are aware that this is actually hurting the environment. I guess with fish is thinking that it's fish food. So they're going on to that direction already. We really don't need to pay that much attention to this unless we get some more evidence, and then we have to look at it, and then that's when the federal government can come down. But as of right now, there's no need for a federal ban. I think the states and the businesses at this point are doing a good job in terms of taking the microbeads out of the products.
Thank you. Chris. Do you support an increased minimum wage? And if you do, what will you do in Washington to make an increased minimum wage occur?
Absolutely. I actually do increase it, but this is where I'll tell you exactly. You guys can make up your mind. I favor replacing the minimum wage with a living wage. And what I mean by a living wage is we made a choice a long time ago in our society. And we decided that we are no longer going to allow Americans to starve to death or to be stranded on the streets in droves. And we made that choice, and that was after the Great Depression. So we made safety nets for people. Now, what corporations are doing now, they're taking advantage of these safety nets. These safety nets are now turning into corporate subsidies. Because when Walmart doesn't pay their employee enough to pay the rent or to pay for gas to get to work so they can work for Walmart, guess what? The government's picking up the tab because we made that choice that we're not going to let these people starve. And I call them corporate subsidies because say President Obama comes on the news one day and says, all corporate programs called entitlement programs, we're going to stop them immediately. Well, guess what? Those employers, they're not going to have employees anymore to get to work because they no longer can pay for their apartments. They no longer pay for gas. They can no longer pay for expenses. So they can't be their employees anymore. So that's why I believe those are corporate subsidies. I believe we could dramatically drop the amount of people that get those by making them not qualified for them. And our economy right now, the way it's going, we are heading towards a service hospitality profession. More people are becoming employees at Walmart or hotels or fast food restaurants. I'm sorry, but the average age right now for a fast food worker is 29 years old. I'm 29 years old. That is depressing to hear. That's people in my group. That's your children. That will be your grandchildren. That is why people in my generation are stuck at home. So if we force these corporations to pay a living wage instead, what I mean by a living wage, there's already a formula to calculate this. It's called a COLA, cost of living allowance. We use it in the military. Congress uses it. If Ken Calvert uses it, why can't we use it for our overall pay system? And we require each state to get their average COLA off of this formula because California's cost of living is significantly higher than Arkansas. So we cannot put the same cost of living. But technically, California's is $12 an hour. All right, so that'll be ours since we're Californians. And on top of that, we add a 1% to 1.5% annual increase to that to combat inflation. Because as of now, our average inflation increase has been 1.6%, give or take a point of a percent. So we won't have this argument 10 or 15 years down the line. But in order to do it, we need concessions. That's where I come in as a fiscal conservative. We need to offer the tax incentives to encourage corporations not to oppose it. Because they do have special interest groups and they do lobby pretty hard. So why start a war where we could all come out of this argument? Like abolishing the corporate tax. I would completely favor abolishing our corporate tax. This is the highest corporate tax in the world. And on top of that, we could add in other tax credits. Because ultimately, I just care about giving the average American person a better way of life. I just want them to have more cash in their pocket. That's all that I want, is for us to benefit more. Our standard to remain the way it is, get better in life. Thank you.
Obviously, well, not obviously, I'm pretty sure most Republicans don't even believe in a minimum wage, but you have to up the minimum wage. So, of course, I'm in favor of it. If not, I don't live in a fairy tale land. If you take away the minimum wage, you will make less money because corporate interests are to make profits. So it's not really to pay you. Most of these states are now starting to up their minimum wage. Federally, I think it's at around $7.25. So federally, you have to up the minimum wage, not to the $15.15. I think that's hysterical. And that kind of goes to the problem that we have where now adults are working jobs that they used to work when they were teenagers because there are no more jobs out there for them. So they're highly skilled, overeducated for working service jobs and going to Walmart. That's where we have to work on the jobs portion. But in terms of the minimum wage, it should go up to at least $8. And we have to do it federally because if we just try to up the wages in California and Texas is still going to keep theirs low, all these jobs are going to go to Texas. So we have to at least make a balance of the federal minimum wage, and if the states want to go higher than that, that's their choice. But I'm definitely in favor of upping the minimum wage.
Thank you.
I echo what my opponents say. We have to increase the minimum wage. If you take a look at what the minimum wage was worth in 1968 versus what it's worth today, it's significantly lower, about $3 an hour. And that's just, not inappropriate. We need to increase the minimum wage. This is an area where there is a distinct difference between Mr. Calvert and myself. Mr. Calvert has constantly voted against raising the minimum wage, despite the fact that the cost of living here in California is high. He has opposed it on a consistent basis. As a matter of fact, this past week, he voted no on a bill that would limit military contracts to companies that did not pay $10.10 an hour. That, to me, is unconscionable. The minimum wage has to be raised, and I would support raising the minimum wage when I get to Congress. Thank
Floyd, the California legislature yesterday failed to pass Senate Bill 1132 that would have banned the practice of fracking until a state commission study proves it to be safe. The bill is eligible for reconsideration. Would you lobby our state representatives to reconsider the moratorium on fracking or proceed without further delay?
Well, like I said, I'm a science guy myself. I didn't have a lot of cable television growing up until I was a teenager, so I grew up on Bill Nye, the Science Guy, and I'm not going to even say the other shows. But I would not lobby against, because that's what the state wants. This is a Democratic governor who everyone voted for, and if they believe that they can do fracking safely, then I will basically allow that to happen. If the people of California have an issue with it, then they take that up at the election booth. But as far as me lobbying against it, there's a lot of information out there that it could be poisonous to the water supply, environment. What I learned, at least from just the people of the 42nd District, you guys care a lot about the environment and your water supply. So I actually trust you guys more than a politician. If you see an issue with it, you know how to respond. You get the politicians out of office or you lobby your governor. But as far as me coming from Washington and Congress to lobby against it, no, because I'm not going to have as much information as you guys or the politicians who are doing this.
Thank you. Tim.
I oppose fracking. The reason I oppose fracking is twofold. Number one, you pump into the ground chemicals to break up the shale so that the gas will come out. The problem with pumping chemicals into the ground is that we don't know what those chemicals are. The companies that do this are able to keep those companies or keep those chemicals secret from us. We have no idea what's going into the ground. And we cannot afford, especially in California, but all across the country, to have a situation where we cause our groundwater to be poisoned. We simply can't do that. Number two, the reason why I oppose fracking is because it causes earthquakes. Now, people laugh about that, but the truth of the matter is it's been demonstrated in Youngstown, Ohio, that after some fracking took place, earthquakes occurred. I lived in Northeast Ohio when I went to law school at the University of Akron, about 50 miles from Youngstown. We never had earthquakes in that area, but they had earthquakes in recent years as a result of the fracking that's going on. So here we are in California. Is fracking a good idea to do in California when we have faults already? I don't think so. So until we can come up with a safer way to extract the gas from the ground, at this point I oppose it for those two reasons. I don't want to poison our water. We don't have a lot of water in California. It would be a disaster if we started poisoning our groundwater. And then there was love. and for the earthquake issue, I just think that that could be that's a road we shouldn't be going down. And so I would oppose it.
Okay, you ready, Sheridan team? All right. If I told you how we created hot dogs, I could probably scare you guys to the point that you want to start losing the ban how we make hot dogs. You could make any industry seem like awful for society, and I give you credit. Yeah, there are some consequences to do with fracking, but every thing we do to acquire our like energy, there are lots of risks to that. Oil, obviously, I'm not a fan of fossil fuels, but until we have actual options, we cannot just go cold turkey. All right, the reason why we can't go cold turkey is because it will destroy our economy and way of life. And I guarantee Americans, when they cannot afford to drive to work, they're going to say, you know what, drill, drill, drill. So why not attack this issue moderately, then try to go cold turkey, and then we fall off the bandwagon, and then we're trying to get every type of energy supply out there, which is bad for me because people like myself usually go to war for that type of things because I'm blue collar like most of you guys. So I prefer not doing that. Instead of banning fracking, and on top of that, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree. Fracking does not cause like earthquakes. This is California. I know we have a lot of earthquakes here. If you drive to Los Angeles, they frack up in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is the bluest area on this country. If fracking really caused an earthquake, it would be gone in a day.
Please.
They will do that. Los Angeles is on lockdown with the Democratic Party. I know this because I used to work for I did a brief internship at the LA County Democratic Party. If fracking was a major threat, they will crack down on that in a heartbeat. And they will ban it. They will make sure it's banned permanently. But there is no real proof that fracking causes earthquakes. There's a lot of things we know about fracking, and I would like to someday get away from fracking, but we need to invest in other forms of fuel. But while we invest in other forms of fuel, we cannot stop what we're doing right now, because that's going to destroy our economy. What I support is an amendment to our Constitution that bans the United States from purchasing oil and natural gas off of American territory. Because that will force us, now granted, we will increase our production of oil and gas in our own country, but that will be temporary, because that will eventually force us to go towards other forms of alternative energy eventually. But it will increase production-wise, but that's the only way that we are going to be completely energy independent.
15 seconds.
And I'll tell you this now, we need this. We need to be independent. Because the Iraq War, that was not just because of Hussein, right? We are going to war now because of oil. Let's end that by investing more into our country, whether that means we need to increase productivity of our oil or natural gas in our country, and also at the same time invest more money in alternative energy sources like hydrogen is another source which is promising. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to you, Tim. It seems to be popularly understood that Republican voters have a 10-point registration advantage in the 42nd District. If that's true, will you be overcoming that disadvantage by getting Republicans to vote for you? And if so, do you have any Republican voter endorsements?
Thank you. My cousin Paul, who's not here, he's a Republican. He's on my team. He's going to vote. So I got one. Let me tell you, I'm going to get more. Let me tell you why I think that Republicans in this district will vote for me. Republicans are not happy with the way that the country is being run. They're especially not happy with the way that Congress is being run. We see the Gallup polls, 10% approval rating. They're fed up with the way that Congress runs. And frankly, part of it is because of Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert is a classic example of someone up on the Hill who just does what John Boehner, Eric Cantor, or Kevin McCarthy tells them to do. We can do better than that. And so Republicans are going to have a choice in the fall between me and Mr. Calvert. They're going to look at the same way that the House has been run over the course of the last 4 years, or they're going to take a look at an opportunity to send somebody up on the Hill who will go up there and work on behalf of everyone in our district with both Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. I promise you this, when I go up on Capitol Hill, I will work with both parties to try to resolve the issues that we're facing in this country. Another reason why I think that Republicans will ultimately vote with me is for the exact reason that everyone has made note tonight, because of the team that I've built. Many of you are here tonight, and I appreciate that you're here. And the reason that this campaign has done so well is because of all the work that these folks have done. And we are going to build a coalition in this district. And is that flying again? We're going to build a coalition in this district to make sure that we come back to the district when I'm in Congress and talk with the people to make sure that we hear what the Republicans are going to say as well. I'm not going to just be a member of Congress representing Democrats. I'm going to be a member of Congress representing every person in this district. That's my pledge to you. Thank you very much.
Same question.
May you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. It seems to be popularly understood that Republican voters have a 10-point registration advantage in the 42nd District. If that's true, will you be overcoming that disadvantage by getting Republicans to vote for you? And if so, do you have any Republican voter endorsements?
First, concerning the Republican endorsements, I don't have any endorsements from political figures or organizations. I'm thinking that's what they mean by that.
No.
The only people I know are my family and friends who are Republicans in the Republican Party. I know many people. I am from Camp Pendleton. All right, that is the reddest area in California you will find. It's a Sparta inside of Athens. You can think of that. And what I would have to say to the people in this district that are part of the Republican Party is I'm not attacking the Republican Party at all. I actually think very highly of the Republican Party. They have a very, if you go back to their history, the Republican Party is the party that ended slavery in our country. It wasn't the Republican Party that institutionalized segregation within the United States. It wasn't the Republican Party that created the KKK. Now granted, they had some bad periods in their history, but who hasn't? I'm from the Democratic Party. If you know our history, it's not that pretty, but you need to know your history so you won't repeat the past. That's what I've always been taught with my teachers in school. And I always make that a point, and I always make sure people know that as well. Especially if they're a Republican or Democratic Party, they should know their history for those political parties. And I'm going after individual Congressman Ken Calvert. And he's not here, so I'm not going to try. It's very hard. I don't like to make things that seem like personal attacks, especially when the other candidate's not here. But Congressman Ken Calvert has been in office for over 20 years. He's been in political office. He's been the boss of this area for 20 years. What has he done for this area, really? For the past 20 years, you could track down when our country's economy started going crashing downhill. Now, I'm not blaming him individually. He's not, because he doesn't have that much authority or power. But he's one of many. And the best way you could stop this is to stop voting these individuals in, because alone they're nobodies. But when you get them together inside of a room together, whether it's the House or the Senate, because there's people in the Senate and the House, both parties, they need to go. When you get them together, then that's when they start passing laws that screw us in the long run. Whether that's with our economy and no jobs. So I am a staunch supporter of term limits, and if you don't want to vote for me, if you think I'm too conservative or too progressive or too whatever, vote for either of these two candidates or Kerri Condley. Kerri Condley, I met her a few times. She's not here because she's late, but she's a very good person, and she's a real progressive. So if you progressives really want progressive, go for Kerri, if you're into that. But besides that, I share the same concerns as all of you guys because I'm a resident here and I'm not a millionaire. Congressman Ken Calvert, he is a millionaire. And granted, tell yourself this. How much money did you lose in the past 20 years? And then see how much money he made in the past 20 years. How much money did you lose in your 401ks when the housing market crashed? Where was he at? I know he says he supports conservative views. I don't ever see him on TV saying that or doing anything in his... He doesn't have that much influence. The only projects he brings here are pork, we call it, because of earmarks, or to support his own projects. He's been investigated by his own party because of that. And the only projects, these are empty warehouses anyways. They don't actually provide permanent jobs. Why build a bunch of empty warehouses if you're not going to use them ever?
Thank you, Chris.
There's a show called Numbers Never Lie, and that's pretty true today. It's actually more than a 10-point little reality here. After redistricting, Democrats are on number 2 to 1 just on Republican votes alone. We're not even talking about the Tea Party. If the Tea Party ran one candidate at the last election, that one candidate would have gotten the second place instead of the Democrat. Numbers, just to be honest, and this coming from a writing candidate, there's no way a Democrat is winning this election. It's not happening. Every time Ken Calvert goes up against a Democrat, he crushes him by 30%. It's not possible. So honestly, Republicans that I speak to, they're not voting for a Democrat. And then most of them don't even want to vote for Ken Calvert, but they will if he's the only Republican on the ticket. Now, where I come in, being a Republican, my views match probably most of yours. So even though a Democrat would not vote for Ken Calvert, they will vote for me off of the views alone. Republican-wise, my views are more Republican than Ken Calvert's is. So therefore, he will actually have, for the first time, have to split Republican votes, which means my hardest task will be to get to the general. But in the general, I will be actually a very, very hard person to beat. But just to be honest with you, I know this is Tim Sheridan, but numbers are numbers, guys. 2-1 Republicans, not including the Tea Party, and you think they're voting for, they've been asking for the president's birth certificate for the past 8 years. They're not voting Democrat. And then you still got the libertarians who just want the government shouldn't even be here. Only about 800 people in the Green Party. Trust me, I've done all the numbers as a writer. So it's more than 10%. It's a 30% gap that you have to make up. But, we are here to try, so good luck.
Thank you, Kerri. Chris, we'll start with you this time. Many political watchers predict that it would be impossible for the Affordable Care Act to be repealed while Obama is still in office. Assuming that that is the case, what part of the ACA do you feel is in most need of fixing, and what sort of fix would you propose that might actually get passed by Congress and not vetoed by the President over the next 24 months?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Now, this is a personal question to me as well, because it's a personal issue. Because I have a sister that suffers from type 1 diabetes. She has since she was an infant. She has mountains of expenses to do with the diabetes. And she actually has insurance from her job. Her employer gave her some really good insurance, but she still has thousands of dollars of insurance. And so I bought into a lot of this health care reform too. And I want health care reform, but right now we don't have health care reform. The Affordable Care Act is not Affordable Care Act. It's not any good care, because the quality of it is going to go so bad south, because we are turning our healthcare system into a two-tiered system. Concierge care for the wealthy, and HMO-style horrible care for us. I know this because I'm a veteran. I get my health care from the Department of Veterans Affairs. I don't even go there anymore. If I really need to see a doctor, I'll pay someone out in the private sector, because it's so hard to do anything down there. The only thing easy to do with the Department of Veterans Affairs, if I want to become a drug addict, I can get an easy prescription for some hard drugs, and I can become an addict. But that's about it. And that's run by the government. That's a single-payer system right there. So all you people that want a single-payer system, you can have my health care. Just try ours for a couple years. The changes I'll make to this law are I will remove the individual mandate. I'll replace it with tax incentives. Look, we just need to make sure healthcare is easily accessible to every American out there. It's that healthcare is affordable to everybody, and the quality remains the same. We do not have to force them to purchase something they do not want. If we make it appealing, they're going to want to buy the product. We are a capitalistic society. Let's embrace what made us great. Capitalism, the free market, that's us. We cannot borrow ideas from Europe. They have I've been there before. Their whole constitution, they don't have a real constitution. Their laws, everything, culture is not like ours. We cannot copy theirs. It won't work. I'll replace that. Toss that out, the individual mandate. What I will keep with the law is I'll allow children to stay on their parents' health care until they're 26 years old. Because of that, a lot of insurance companies already provided that service to begin with, and it's a benefit for all of us, so why throw it out with it? Because that's not a bad thing. I'll also keep in place not allowing insurance companies to not give coverage to people with pre-existing conditions, because we know that's a scam. They use it for everything. If you're pregnant, technically that was considered a pre-existing condition. So we need to take that away from them. Now, to encourage competition and keep premiums down, because right now people in my age category are paying $400 to $500 now for their premiums. is to allow insurance companies to sell across state lines. Okay, competition. Right now, there's a monopoly in place. I cannot buy insurance in Arizona if I want to. I'm stuck with what's in California. And these people that say, well, the whole point of that is because California standards are higher than Arizona. Not really. Maybe back in the 20s and 30s when things were a little not like today. But now we have laws in place that prevent insurance companies to sell you such policies. Now, obviously,
30 seconds, Chris.
if you do this, this will increase competition between the states. Now, another thing, well, a couple other issues I'll just hit on since I don't have time to explain each one, is allow Americans to put a portion of their income in tax-free health savings accounts. So these accounts, they cannot tax. It takes away from their income. The reason they will want to do this, because when they put this money in these tax-free accounts for like health care, it lowers their bracket of income, which means they pay overall lower taxes and income tax as well. So more Americans will appreciate something like that. Also, another one is allow small businesses to get together and buy healthcare as a group. You know, when you buy in bulk, you usually save money, right? You can do that with anything in this economy. Another issue I will do is tort reform, because we need it. I know some people are totally like opposed to it, but we do need some forms of tort reform. And if we allow Americans to buy prescriptions in Canada, they could save more money on prescription drugs. That's what a lot of our cash goes to, is prescription drugs. You talk to anyone in the Department of Veterans Affairs, and trust me, I've been in Canada. They got the same laws. They're not this country. They're not Iraq. They're pretty much America. They have a lot of the same laws to protect people, so we can trust them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'll get it right, yeah.
Well, I actually know a little bit about the insurance companies since I've been in that industry for over 13 years. I'll clear up a few things real quick. I agree with him in terms of the bond address from Canada, but as you know, the Democrats actually killed that bill in the Senate. The president didn't want that. You know about the secret deal that he did. He promised them that that would not go through. Tort reform is not a good one. Basically, that means if the insurance company does something to you, you're not going to be able to sue them for much money. So that's actually bad. Buying insurance across state lines is actually, that's another what Republicans talk about. I'll let you know we have domestic and foreign insurance companies. Domestic is an insurance company in your state. California likes, if you want to take our insurance, you got to come to the state and do business. Foreign is anyone outside of the state. If we do buy insurance across state lines, they go all the way up to, y'all know what Joe Lieberman is. He's your favorite Democrat anyway. But they go there because the taxes are lower. Insurance is a for-profit business. They're not there to give you health care. They don't even do any operation. That means you're going to pay more insurance each year. I was actually for the affordable health care when he was talking about more of the public options. Again, I've been in an insurance company and I'm with the insurance industry, so I really know how it works. Then he goes to the mandate, which I said, wow, that's a gold mine. And I can promise you, all this talk of repeal, there's no way on God's green earth that the insurance company are going to let the Republicans repeal Obamacare, because that mandate is a gold mine. To force somebody to buy your product, I don't know any other industry that has it that way. So personally, I think the repeal is irritating to me. Everybody voted for Obama twice. This is the law of the land. Let's try to work on it. I know one of the issues that we're going to have by throwing a lot of people in the system at once, and these are millions of people, we're not going to have any doctors or nurses to see them. So you're going to have to train a lot of nurses very, very quickly. Before I filled up with health care, it would take me maybe a couple of weeks to get a physical. When my kids were trying to go to play football, it took them 2 months. And I said, man, by the time y'all give us a physical, the season is over. I have to go somewhere else to pay another doctor. So it's with the VA, as you know, when they allowed Agent Orange and PTSD for Vietnam veterans to finally get claims that threw it in the system, and the VA system that was not prepared for it. You keep throwing a lot of people in the system that's really not prepared, you're going to have problems. So it's better just to work on it, to fix it since we can, be as transparent as possible since nobody actually read this thing, so we're all going to be reactionary to it. And the talk of repeal just needs to stop because it's quite irritating right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
This is not news. Mr. Calvert opposes Obamacare. prior to the ACA being passed, there in California there were more uninsured Americans than any other state across the country. Since Obamacare was passed, we have set up an exchange in California. It's called Covered California. And the last time I checked, a couple of weeks ago, there's that flag. 1.3 million Californians have gotten care from Covered California. And yet, Mr. Calvert continues to say that we need to abolish Obamacare. If we do that, what are we going to do with those 1.3 million people who are now covered as a result of the ACA? Now, in his video, Mr. Calvert talked about passing some other law. I wrote it down, but I don't see where I wrote it. I haven't heard of any proposal that the Republicans have put forth in the House or the Senate to replace Obamacare. And so I don't think it's beneficial for us to do so. And with that said, let me add, I do think that there are some things that we need to fix about Obamacare. It's not a perfect law. When Medicare was passed in 1965, that wasn't a perfect law either. And yet, what we did over the course of a couple of years is make changes to it. The problem with the Congress now is that they're so divided that you can't even sit down across the table from the other side and work out a deal to fix issues. When I go to Washington in January, again, as I said earlier, I promise you, I'm going to sit across the table from any Republican who will sit there with me to try to work out things that we need to fix. Now, the question specifically was, what would you propose? What would I propose? I think the one thing that people are most upset about, and this is something that the president made a mistake on, let's face it, the ability to keep a plan that they already had. If people want to keep a plan, even if it's not 100% compliant with what the law is, I think that that's a fix that we could make. Is it a perfect fix? No, but that's something that would help people so that they can keep their same doctors and keep their same plan. Also, I would favor certain tax credits for small business. We need to make sure that we take care of small business in this country, and there are times when healthcare costs get so expensive that it makes it hard for small businesses to insure their folks. So appropriate tax credits would be okay with me. And again, it would be something I do when I go to Washington across the table for Republicans. Thank you.
While local community colleges are generally affordable to middle-class families, getting required classes is very difficult for enrolled students due to limited offerings, which leads to some students needing 4 years rather than the 2 just to get the 2-year AA degree. Do you believe community colleges should be expanded? And if so, how would you fund such an expansion?
Okay, well, being that I graduated from a community college, yes, they do need to be expanded. But here's another issue that we have here. Again, when you throw a lot of people in the system that's not ready for it, this is what you get. We have a lot of people who used to work, and they were told your industry is gone, so now you have to re-educate yourself. So now we have a lot of people going to the junior colleges, starting from square one, your core curriculum. You have a bunch of kids now who cannot afford university going to the junior college system, and then the other ones who really don't know what they're going to do, that we're going to go there first. It needs to be funded. It needs to be expanded. There's nothing that either of us can do by being members of Congress to help that. I know somebody might make a promise, but that's not really what we're about. You need to talk to the governor because he took $1 billion his first 30 days in office. So that is the issue for the states. They do need the money to expand for more teachers to cover these classes. And a lot of different colleges are trying to do different things to kind of help get more people in, punish people for not passing the first time and keep you taking the class. But as a member of Congress, again, I would love for the junior college to expand, but we don't fund that. Governor Jerry Brown took $1 billion, so you cannot ask him for the $1 billion back if you don't have it. That's the only way you can go about the expansion of the junior colleges.
As I mentioned at the beginning, I am a graduate of community college, and I'm very happy that I went to a community college. As I said, my parents were middle-class folks. They didn't have a lot of money to send me to a four-year school right away, so I went to the community college and I graduated. Education, folks, is the fundamental issue in this race and in our country. We have to educate our children, both at the elementary all the way up through college. And community college is a great way for someone who may not know if they want to go to a four-year school to go and try it out. It's a great way for someone who knows that they want to go to a four-year school but don't have a lot of money, like was the case with me. And so we need to find whatever money we can find anywhere to make sure that community colleges are supported in every way that we possibly can. I'm a proud community college graduate, and I think that they're a great benefit for the country, and that's something that I'm going to work on when I get to Congress. So, thank you.
I'm actually currently in community college right now, so I can give you some intel what's going on in community college right now. And yes, because of all these cuts, classes are not available. I have to commute to Santiago Canyon College from Corona, which takes me anywhere from half an hour to an hour, depending on traffic. It's the 9-1, you guys know how bad to get. We currently have a shortage of skilled tradesmen. If you know, what I'm talking about is skilled jobs like welders, mechanics, technical mechanics, those types of professions out there. What we need to do as government, we need to fill those jobs somehow. And the best way to do that is to train Americans. And Americans are investments. We want to encourage people to continue their education past high school. And the reason is, as a country, we don't have a choice. If they decide not to ever continue their education, if that's through a traditional college or through like a trade school, how are we going to produce new jobs? How are we going to get people to fulfill these positions that require someone who has a skilled trade? So let's give them that education for free. If they complete a jobs program for a skilled trade, I'm not talking about jobs that pay like $8 or $9 an hour. These jobs pay like $30 an hour sometimes, starting salary, really good jobs. Why don't we institutionalize a program, kind of like what I have with my education benefits? I pick a school I want to go to. If I like that school, my benefits will pay a portion of the tuition. Now, with trade schools, since we do have a shortage right now, until that shortage is filled, why not we provide this to them? And if they complete their education and get their certificate, they don't have to pay back that loan. If they drop out and don't, they have to pay it back. So it's kind of like a loan you're giving them. But if they graduate, get their certificate, and you just don't allow them to just go on their own with their certificate. Because what I learned in the Marine Corps was you need guidance. We help them find a job where they want to find a job at. And trust me, there's jobs all over this country that require skilled workers. And another reason why there's overcrowding at a lot of community colleges, I know this for a fact. I just talked to somebody in one of my classes a few days ago about this. We have no jobs right now in our economy right now. We all know this. Our economy is stagnant. It's not moving. There are college kids who are enrolling in community colleges and taking a class or two classes. They're taking enough classes so they don't have to start paying their student loans. I know people that already have a bachelor's degree and they're taking 2 or 3 classes in Santiago Canyon College because they're trying to hold off as long as possible until they have to start paying back these student loans. Because the job they currently have, they are like underemployed. They do not make enough to pay for a mortgage payment. And this is common, people. And that is one of the reasons why it's hard to find classes. Because you got kids there who are taking classes, they don't need classes. And I don't want them there if they don't want to be there. I want them to be productive citizens of society. I want them to have a job so they can pay taxes and spend money into our economy. That's what I want them to do. So we need to take this crutch off of them, which is also why what we need for our schools is invest more money into our schools, but we need the amount of tuition to drop. And we could find the money for this. I don't have no clear solution. Yes, Governor Jerry Brown, he kicked a $1 billion bill, whatever. I'm not going to let that stop me. I don't care. I'm going to still find a way to find funding for this because this is our kids. This is our society. This is your kids. Our future is education will solve so much problems in our communities. We need to invest in education. We do spend a lot on our public school system, but I have another plan on how to fix those. We currently spend more per student, and we are rated one of the lowest education systems around it.
30
but
seconds.
that's another issue. This is about colleges. But we could find more classes. We could expand these courses, especially since we have a lot of veterans coming out, and they need to find places to go. When I was a veteran starting out, trying to enroll in school, they didn't tell me this, but our benefits don't pay for all school tuition. Out-of-state tuition aren't covered by my benefits. So if you're an out-of-state student and you want to come to California and go to college, you're paying thousands of dollars out of pocket. But guess what? Student loan right there, you're getting a student loan. You're already in debt right there. And on top of that,
10 seconds.
they don't tell you is you have to pay a lot of this out of pocket first, and you get paid back hopefully in time by the Department of Veteran Affairs because the process is so slow. So you either have to have a savings account ready to go to college after your service to hold you back for housing allowance, because all that stuff is postponed for a while because you pay everything out of pocket because the paperwork process is so slow because the Department of Veteran Affairs is so big that it's about to implode on itself.
Chris, time.
Oh, sorry. So we need to make it possible for these veterans to access their benefits so they can actually use their benefits. Right now, a lot of them aren't, and that's a shame.
We're right now.
I had to squeeze that down the back.
We're at 5 after 8, so we're only going to ask one more question of the three candidates, and then we will open it up to questions from the floor. This question is from a former mayor, Bob McGee. Over 10 years ago, our city of Lake Elsinore joined 13 others with Riverside County in forming the Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan. The goal was to achieve compliance with the Federal Endangered Species Act and to enable us to build much-needed infrastructure and bring jobs to the region. In exchange for this plan and its implementation, federal officials promised that permitting issues would be streamlined and that funds would be made available to purchase habitat land from private property owners who found themselves consumed by the plan, while the cities in the county of Riverside kept their end of the bargain, preserving nearly 50,000 acres of habitat and spending hundreds of millions of dollars. The federal agencies have remained uncooperative in the permitting process and have yet to contribute funding to the plan. And this is very true. After living here 50 years, I can tell you that that plan has not been implemented. The question really is centered on this. The Railroad Canyon Road I-15 interchange, right at the bottom of the hill, still can't get federal approval or federal funds after 14 years. We have had studies. How would you change this in your first 100 days of office? Tim.
Thank you. I'm not surprised that something that was promised hasn't happened over 14 years. Congressman Calvert has been in office for a long time, and prior to him serving this particular area, it was served by another Republican. And Republicans aren't, working as they should on behalf of this constituency in the 42nd District. As far as the environmental issue is concerned, Congressman Calvert has a lifetime 7% score for the relief of conservation voters. 7%. Now, we're here in Southern California, and we like to think of ourselves as environmentalists. When you have a member of Congress who has such a low score on environmental issues, that's not beneficial for the constituents in the 42nd District. How would I do it in the first 100 days? I don't know specifically how I do it, but I will say this. I will go to whatever federal agency I need to go to get this issue moving, and I will make sure that there will be phone calls from the Congressional office on a daily basis to ensure that the issue is resolved. Thank you.
I'll just like to hit one thing real quick. There is no such thing as a special interest group or any type of group there to influence political decisions. That's not partisan to a certain extent. So don't totally go off of scorecards or ratings, or everyone has an agenda, especially if they're in that profession to lobby people. Obviously, you have an agenda. What's your special interest? You're called a special interest group for a reason, right? So just think about that for a second when we start throwing out numbers and stuff like that. But environmental, I like the environment. I'm from California, obviously. We all like the environment where we live at. I was raised in Southern California my whole life. I love going to the beach. But when it affects people first. That's your slogan, right? I'm for that as well. And that goes above the environment as well. Because, like I said, when we allow these policies sometimes coming out of the EPA to affect people in ways that it hurts small businesses and communities, or just hurts people that own land, especially large landowners, we usually don't have the problem here because this is a suburban community, but farmers, you need to think of them. A lot of farmers have been hurt hard by policies that came out of our EPA. The EPA is still a good department, but we need to take away some of this authority, because right now, I don't think any agency should have the ability to create laws without being approved by Congress. That just seems unconstitutional to me. We have branches of government for a reason, and Congress is responsible for making laws and policies that have to do with our government. And the EPA shouldn't override those, because if you think about it, it's a politically appointed position anyways. So why would you want to do that? We are a democracy. And I don't want to bash Republicans. Once again, I'm not here to attack Republicans. How can you be able to work with Republicans when you're blaming them for destroying Congress, or when you're saying they're doing this and that? I know this is my family, Republicans. And whenever I hear people talk crap on Republicans, I think of my family. And that's what a lot of Republicans in this area think as well. So, you think you're going to go to Congress and be nonpartisan? Whoa. You're already campaigning against it.
Whoa, stop, please. Stop it.
This is right. This area is 45% registered Republicans. You're going to insult them? There are people just like us. They got jobs just like us. My family are Republicans. I got a lot of people just like there's married my family, so our party is the freaking Green Party. I got married to my party, part of the Democrat Party. This is what I'm talking about. Partisanism. Nothing will improve if we keep on electing people that are partisan. We will have more government shutdowns. And remember, our last government shutdown was during a time of war. We were still at war. There were bodies stuck in Afghanistan because of that freaking shutdown. And both parties are to blame for that. Not just the Republicans, not just the Democrats, anyone that's serving in Congress right now. The reason I'm here, because I'm sick, like the veterans I see suffering. Do you know, in California, on average, the most progressive state out there, we have about 100,000 people that are homeless, living on the streets. On average, every day in California. Over 20% of the people are veterans. What about our prison populations? Think of that.
Yes, thank you.
We cannot fix these issues until we stop electing these cookie-cutter politicians who come straight out of the party establishment. You need to vote people that care about you, people that come out of your community, people that are not millionaires. We have an oligarchy we need to end, and it is here. All right, thank you very much.
Floyd, do you need a refresher? Question mark? Thank you.
In terms of your project, 14 years, that is true. I think it's kind of scary. The more I talk to local officials here in Lake Elsinore, the more I like it. I don't know if that's a scary thing or not, but they're actually doing a pretty good job here, the local ones. The I-15 Railroad Canyon project you're talking about, the reason why it's not done, again, a lot of people think Congress can come in and do something. We can't, but your states and your cities are doing a good job. It was over budget. They promised them one thing. Before you do any kind of project, you have to do you have to first do the environmental. Then you have to do the engineering portion, the design. Then you get your money, then you start building. Well, between the environmental and the design, they realized that this project was going to cost the city of Lake Elsinore $80 million. So they said, forget it, we can't afford it. They put it on the shelf. Now you have other environmentalists and engineers who are going back to this project and they're saying, well, you know what, I think we can actually do it at the figure that you can afford. So they said, fine. Now it's back starting from square one, environmental and engineering, the planning portion. So it's going to happen if they can afford it. But just because you see a project and then it doesn't go as you think or the next day like a video game, doesn't mean that it's a politician in the background that's trying to work on, do you wrong. They're doing the right thing. There are a lot of states that wish they have politicians like Lake Elsinore, because they would do a project without doing their due diligence and run the state into debt because all of a sudden now, oh, surprise, the project costs more than we were told, and now you're stuck with the bill. So Lake Elsinore did a very good job. In terms of your habitat, that's actually on par. The state has to come in with so much, the federal government has to come in with so much money. And I think they're about at 30% right now. Federal government is doing their job, the state is doing their job. Now, in the long run, you will start running out of money and it'll be more critical. But that's, again, no one is really complaining because everybody understands the budget crunch that we're in. So we can make do. Hopefully we get the economy turned around the right way and then the federal government can come in and put more money in for the habitat. But, honestly, this process matures a lot of people when you really get here. You have to be responsible. I told a lot of guys the biggest thing is to educate people about what's really going on so everyone is not amped up. But you have a good thing going here in Lake Elsinore in the 42nd District. You should be proud of it.
We will accept questions from the floor to any particular candidate. In the back? Yes, you.
Mine is about fracking. And I was going to say either Mr. Marquez or Mr. Harvey.
Yes, ma'am.
Can answer it, but speaking to Mr. Harvey's a bit more level-headed. I have several issues with fracking. One, I think it's kind of falling to force water under pressure into a geologically unstable area that's already under pressure, has been for thousands of years. The entire state of California is geologically unstable. The San Andreas fault runs right through it. So to be forcing water under high pressure into a geologically unstable area just doesn't make sense. Secondly, I recently read an article, a science article, on the fact that they have found that methane is escaping out of these wells. Not only methane, a lot of methane. And although there are agencies that are supposedly monitoring for the state, they just take the word of the gas company or the oil company that these methane emissions are not taking place or are as small as they say they are. But there's no independent verification of that. Thirdly, with a state that is in a state of drought, where Central California is the fruit, vegetable, and nut capital of the United States, and Southern California is essentially an irrigated desert, we are wasting millions and millions of gallons of water, pumping them down into the earth. You can't grow crops with it. You can't reuse it. And if the water table runs underneath the water that has these chemicals that's being pumped down into these wells, water reaches its own level. It goes down. If the water table runs beneath it. What's to say that these chemicals cannot get into our water table? So you have a sort of laissez-faire attitude toward fracking, saying, you don't like it, boot the people out in the next election. And Mr. Marquez is outright against banning it. As somebody who's lived in California my whole life, the last thing I want to see is these fracking wells anywhere in the state of California. My question is...
Yeah, what's the question?
My question is, if knowing this, and if you had this independent data about the methane that's escaping, about chemicals going into the water table, would you have to wait until 10 years when we do have actual facts and proof that it's mutagenic, that it's causing birth defects, it's causing all kinds of illnesses. Do we wait that long? Do we have to have physical evidence in children, pregnant women, in anybody that this stuff is poison? Or do we just get the 8 or 9.0 earthquake and then we think, okay, you were right? I mean, the consequences are so serious that I can't understand how people can be so blind to that. That it's just okay. So please explain to me how.
What's that again?
Do you have? Oh, my name is Caroline.
Caroline. I can take your question, Caroline. One thing, it's not that I'm laissez-faire. Again, we don't send a lot of responsible people to Washington, so they get there and act like a bunch of idiots, and that actually brings politicians down. So it's not really that I don't care. Of course I care, but as a congressperson to come to a state where you have voters. Now, someone like yourself would be a great advocate for something like this, because if you have to worry about drought, then obviously your point makes a lot of sense. Why would you pump water in a state where we got concerns about drought? And the same thing is in nuclear power plants. You have to use fresh water to keep them cool. So if you hear about people using fracking, and again, we've been fracking for a very long time, and no one's been poisoned yet. It is possible. I understand that with the Clean Water Act that Congress passed, where they could not actually test fracking the way they should in terms of what kind of chemicals are in the water. We know it's some toxic stuff, but I personally think that my job would be better served by allowing you, since you can lobby your congressman, you can lobby your governor. They're more afraid of you than of someone from Congress. These people don't really care, okay? They don't represent you. They just talk to get enough votes, and then they go around with their corporate buddies, because that's who they're actually representing. They don't care about a congressman coming down. Now, if you have an issue, and I can draw media and be like an Al Sharpton, I look at this, come on, I might do that if it would help you. But other than that, I think someone like yourself, as well educated as you are, and Tim got this whole room filled up, you guys can do a much better job at educating more people. Remember, with the Keystone Pipeline, one lady got that pipeline stopped in Nebraska. One lady did that because she was educated. She went out and educated her farmers. They said, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And they stopped the pipeline. They stopped the company and the government, because they both were in on this. So you don't really need to rely on us, because it's really not our responsibility. And you don't want Congress people coming down to your state, because what if I'm a popular congressman and I'm for fracking, and I come down and try to influence? You wouldn't like that. So I'm just telling you guys, I trust that you guys will do the right thing. And if you don't like fracking, there's a way to get around it. But people have been fracking for a long time, and it's very hard in this economy. If these guys are putting up a job, and you have men who have not been working for a long time, we would like for them to care a lot about the environment, but it's very depressing not to have a job. I've been there. I promise you. They're going to take the job. So educate your public, educate everyone else to get involved, and stop it if you want to. But as a member of Congress, I'm just trying to be responsible here. I would not come down and do that. Sorry.
This gentleman right here.
I wanted to kind of criticize her answer regarding the fracking and the other thing just a while ago, taking unknown chemicals. It is a fact that those chemicals that go in can dissolve rock. Period. That's not, oh, we don't know, whatever else. That's fact. And another thing that was not a fact yet, but the scientists did come back on a salt and sea study. This is just in our press enterprise the last 3 weeks. They believe it may be causing earthquakes. That's not fact yet. I mean, that's not shown yet, but those chemicals dissolving rocks are. So my question would be, are you saying that if you had that office, you would wait to see, as the other lady said, you would wait to see bad results? Or would you be a leader and go, I can tell from the studies that are there, this does not look like a good thing, and I would be against it? Whether or not the majority was there yet, because the majority doesn't get paid to study this stuff. That's one of the hard things we've got. We've all got jobs where we're doing something, where we're maybe selling insurance, or we're working on cars. We pay money in taxes and good salaries to people in Congress that have all kinds of study groups to study those items and give it to those congressmen. This is science stuff. This is an opinion. It shouldn't be partisan, but unfortunately it turns out that way. So once again, do you lead or do you follow? That's my question.
Well, again, I'll just tell you, it's not about leading or following.
Okay, and I understand it right from that. As a politician, it's not to lead or follow is what you're
No,
doing.
and on this issue that I'm telling you, it's not about leading or following. Okay, you personally say, okay, we have this evidence that it's going to poison the water supply. So here's the problem that we have in too much. Too many people vote and just go home. That's not how the Congress is supposed to work. When you vote, you have to stay involved.
Hey, can I get this real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No.
We're always on the same scale, but I think I can explain better. We consume a lot of energy in this country, and every year that increases. Right now, fossil fuels is the only viable option to take care of the majority of that. I don't like fossil fuels. I don't think anyone in here wants us to continue to use fossil fuels. We need alternatives. And when people start throwing around words like ban or stop doing this, I see and other people see are jobs. Those are jobs, and that's our economy. It's the same reason why the coal miner works in the coal mine. It's not because of his health. I know someone that works in a coal mine. He's a veteran, and he got a service and became a coal miner. It's a very poor industry. It's in bad conditions. He's very unhealthy. You don't want to lie he works in that coal mine to support his family. He doesn't care about his health. He cares about his family. So I ask that you use your resources and energy instead of trying to ban things, you find solutions for these alternatives. You find solutions to our energy concerns. There are technologies out there that we are so close to getting, but we don't hear anything about. We just hear about these arguments about ban this, ban that. No one's bringing out, there's a concept that's already taking place. There's a model they call the solar highway. This idea is incredible. It's a highway created out of solar panels, but the way they create it allows cars and vehicles to use it. Why don't we talk about things like those other solutions, or like hydrogen? Hydrogen is in our water system. We can find ways to extract hydrogen and use that to power our power grids with. But when we're not doing that, we're fighting about banning stuff, about this is dangerous. Of course, when you pump stuff out of our planet Earth, there are consequences to that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's 100% safe. That's with everything that happens, though. Going to space, there was consequences going to that. Everything we do has consequences, but we don't have a choice because we are an energy-consuming country. And if you think Americans are going to conserve energy at home more, they're not. And our population is increasing every day. That energy consumption is increasing every day. So we need real alternatives. If not, they're going to stay there with fossil fuels. And we're going to be stuck in wars non-stop. That's the main argument here. We need to focus on solutions.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Jerry, that's a good question. And I can tell you, when I go to Congress, I'm going to be a leader in Congress. I'm going to be a leader on issues. I can tell you all that there's going to be issues that you're going to disagree with me about when I go to Congress, when I make votes. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to the district and I'm going to hear you out. I'm going to let you talk to me about the particular positions I'm going to take. And I will be a leader, not only in Washington, but in the district as well. Let me, this is another distinction or a difference between me and Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert's been in Congress since 1992. Sorry, he got elected in 92, he took office in 1993. Ed Royce is a Republican member of Congress who was also elected in 1992 and took office in 1993. Ed Royce is the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Howard McKeon was elected in 1992, took office in 1993, another Republican. He is the chair of the Armed Services Committee. What's Mr. Calvert done? He got his first subcommittee chairmanship last year. That's not a leader. And when I go to Congress, I will work and I will be a leader for this district. Unlike Mr. Calvert, who is a classic example of a backbencher. And just so we're clear, he became the subcommittee chair of appropriations of Interior, Environment, and related agencies.
30 seconds.
The problem with that is, as I mentioned earlier, he has a 7% lifetime score from the League of Conservation Voters, and he's the chair of a subcommittee that deals with environment. That's not good for Cal's work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to bring up the time. This is California, right? Very, very blue state. When you talk about leading, again, I'm just trying to be responsible. How many Democrats are in the Senate right now in California? A bunch of them, right? When was the last time the Senate and the Congress? How many of them came down here to stop fracking? Your governor is a Democrat. He approved fracking. Again, I don't want to give anybody false hopes of what a congressman can and cannot do. Now, my job, if I'm a congressman, will be to adjust the Clean Water Act where you can actually get more transparency. But to come down and say, I'm going to lead and stop, it's not going to happen, guys. It's not the state is blue as it can be. Your governor is a Democrat and he approved fracking. So to come down and act as if somebody's going to be a magical congressman to stop something what your own politicians won't stop, your own governor's not going to stop, is just wishful thinking. If you have a problem with it, you lobby your state legislator to stop it. But to expect the congressman to do it, no, I will help in terms of with the Clean Water Act, obviously, because I believe in transparency. But I won't make any empty promises like that.
Thank you. Scott?
Good question, and I also want to address some of the, I guess you could only call it misinformation or disinformation about fracking. Water also dissolves rock. I mean, you really have to inform yourself. You have a giant in this case. There is no evidence that fracking poisons anybody's water. There's no evidence yet. Okay? If we want, no, there's not. There's not. There's some guys who've lit a faucet on fire, and it turns out in states where they don't do fracking, where it's never occurred. There's also been, you can light your faucet on fire. I mean, there's a lot of, well, I mean, ma'am, I can tell you right now, we're the victims. Yeah, I guarantee you'd see him on the NBC Nightly News if there was one. Your first one would be on the NBC Nightly News. The second thing is, when you have an energy problem, if you want to ban natural gas or fracking, which makes it cheaper, you better expect to double your electric bill. And especially while we have politicians trying to shut down more nuclear plants that produce electrical energy. You're going to have to get energy from somewhere, or we're going to live in caves. And right, well, how's that been working out so far? We've spent about
$4 a month.
Right, we've spent about $1 trillion on that research, and where are we?
Unless we're planning on writing her name on the ballot, can we direct a question?
Yeah, well, I'm not taking any more time, son, than anything other people have. I haven't taken any more time asking my question than any of you guys have, so I'll take one. Now, going back to Mr. Sheridan, a while ago you just criticized, you said that Mr. Calvert had a very low approval rating from the Conservation Commission, while simultaneously blaming him for the slowness of getting the interchange down here at 15 and Rebel Canyon Road. It's an environmental, the EPA is holding it up. It's federal environmental laws, and you also accused him of being against those. So your question needs to be squared up here. It doesn't logically follow suit. It seems like a fallacious syllogism.
Well, let me just say that the point I'm making is that Mr. Calvert is a classic example of a bad venture in Washington. You know, I think that's obvious by the fact that he has been in Congress for 20 years. He just got his first subcommittee chairmanship last October, despite the fact that the Republicans had a majority in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, from 1995 to 2007, and then again from 2010 to 2014. My issue with Mr. Calvert is that he doesn't do very much for the district. And I appreciate that this part of the district is new for him, but he just doesn't have a long time record in Congress.
But you accused him of being opposed to environmental laws, and it is environmental laws that is slowing this interchange progress. That's what I'm saying. How do you square that? Your argument is it's a fallacious syllogism. Your argument is not consistent. You can't blame him for opposing environmental laws and also blame him for an interchange not being built that is being held up by environmental laws. It's one or the other. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Well, this is not something that he's talked about. I looked at his website before we came today, and this is not something that's on his radar. I think it's something that he should come out to Lake Elsinore or to any other city in the district and say, look, here's an issue, let's hear what you have to say about it. That's not something that he's doing. As far as the environmental laws are concerned, there's no doubt. I mean, being in Congress for 20 years, being from Southern California, where we are environmentalists for the most part, and moreover, where we live in a state where we have problems with our water, to have a 7% rating from the League of Conservation Voters is just, it's unconscionable.
Well, they're a political hack group that believes that we should all live in caves and wipe ourselves with leaves and that's, so you've got a lot of political work. How is he rated by other industries?
Because it's going to be about 8:45, and there are other people that probably do want to ask some questions. What we are going to do is we are going to allow them to make a closing statement, and then you can buttonhole them individually. Because that way you can make the comments you choose, and people can agree to disagree.
Can I ask one last question? I can't believe anyone's touched on yet. A few days ago, we had yet another individual pick up not one, not two, but 3 weapons of mass destruction and kill 6 beautiful kids. How do you feel about guns, gun control? I want to start with the Marine. And please, gentlemen, when you answer, try to spare me and talk about treatment for mental illness, because you run up and now. I was in Tokyo for 15 years.
Got it.
Every now and then, the businessmen there are under tremendous pressure to perform. Every now and then, one of them explodes. They don't pick up guns and slaughter people, and you know damn well why they don't, because they can't. So what are you going to do to make this answer? How do you feel about that?
We'll allow a minute for each of you. Chris, you're standing. Your minute starts now.
Thank you, and thank you for that. I was very passionate. I do understand where you're coming from, because I do have family friends that have.
I got a daughter who's half Japanese, and she wants to come here and I want to college. So I'm very concerned.
I understand that. We have a constitution. How many laws do you have already on guns? In California alone, just think about that. How many laws have you passed continuously to stop gun violence in California or in other states? We have a constitutional right that was fought for and we earned it. It's not about passing laws that undermine our Constitution. And it's not just the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment as well. We start passing all these Patriot Acts and these other laws that undermine our Constitution. It makes it irrelevant. It's just a piece of paper, a document.